Backsiding cones is a fundamental autocross skill that will make you faster. But many novices don't know what backsiding a cone actually means. This video covers the basics and benefits of backsiding cones and provides tips to help you learn how to backside. The term backsiding refers to where you're positioning your car relative to a cone. Instructors can describe backsiding in different ways. I tell novices, you backside a cone by putting the rear quarter panel close to the cone you're turning past. Some instructors describe it as putting your inside rear tire as close as possible to the cone you're turning past. Other instructors will say you want the car to pass behind the cone instead of beside the cone. Your proximity to the cone and your angle of attack both affect the line you're taking through the element and the speed at which you can attack the element. Backsiding makes it much easier to attack an autocross course. If you do it correctly, backsiding gives you the most amount of time to prepare for the next cone or the next element. Backsiding allows you to be more aggressive, and it keeps you from having to work harder behind the steering wheel to get through elements. How do you backside a cone? When you're walking the course, identify the cones you need to backside. As you visualize your line, ask yourself, will backsiding this cone help me attack the next cone or element? When you're driving, look ahead to plan your path. At speed, it's really important to spot the cones you need to backside in advance. Looking ahead gives you more time to put your car in position to backside those cones. You want to run a smooth line that requires the least amount of steering input to correctly backside the cone. But keep in mind that you might have to turn the steering wheel more or less depending on the placement of the next cone or element. You don't want to drive straight at and centered on the cone you're trying to backside. Setting up a little wide of the cone as you approach it will give you the room you need to make a smooth turn. You want to make an arc, not an angle. Be careful not to go too wide. A line that's too wide adds unnecessary distance and requires sharper, slower turns. Because it takes time for the car to respond to your steering input, you have to initiate your turn before you get to the cone you want to backside. That's called being early. It will take some getting used to, but it is incredibly important to be early with your steering inputs. If you don't start turning until you're at the cone you need to backside, you'll leave a gap between the car and the cone you're turning past. That's called being late. Being late leaves you with less time to prepare for the next cone or element. That can result in using less throttle, more braking, and making sharper steering inputs. Novices are often very late. It's easiest to see the price you pay for being late in a slalom. Backsiding the key cones correctly allows you to be smooth and fast. Being late on the first cone forces you to make a correction that costs you time. If you don't make a correction, being late can lead to hitting a cone or a DNF. But because it is possible to be late on lots of cones and still make it through the course without a penalty, many novices form bad backsiding habits that can be hard to break. When you're starting out, prioritize being early. Be aware that turning too early can lead to hitting the cone you want to backside. That's actually not such a bad thing at your first few autocross events. You're figuring out exactly how wide your Mustang is and exactly where to position your car to be close to the cone without incurring a penalty. Don't be surprised if your instructor says you have to hit cones to miss cones. Hitting cones can be helpful because you can make adjustments to the timing and degree of your steering inputs based on whether you're hitting the cone with the front of the bumper, the front wheel, the door, the rear wheel, or the rear quarter panel. It's important to note that you don't have to backside every cone on course. For example, in this lane change, you need to backside the last cone on the left in section 1 and the last cone on the right in section 2. But you don't need to backside the last cone on the left in section 3 to correctly attack the gate after the lane change. Knowing you don't need to backside the last cone on the left in section 3 allows you to be more aggressive on the throttle exiting section 2 through section 3 and through the gate. In this example, the slalom leads into a Chicago box. You wouldn't want to backside the last cone in the slalom. Knowing you don't need to backside the last cone in the slalom allows you to be fast out of the slalom. Determining which cones you need to backside and which cones you don't need to backside can help you extend fast sections of the course because you can get on the gas earlier and stay on the gas longer. Being able to identify the cones you need to backside and put your car in the proper position out on course will make you much faster. At your next autocross event, use the tips in this video to get all the benefits of backsiding cones.